Hello and welcome back to IFSC-Africa 2020 Championships. Joining me now in the commentary box is Christopher Kossa, currently ranked first after yesterday's qualification round for the guys. Chris, the girls are just having a little viewing. Do you want to have a little chat about that? No pressure?
Yeah, super psyched. Thank you for having me here. The bowls are looking really good. Really psyched to see what happens and watch the girls compete. It's going to be an entertaining day.
So the girls have just finished looking at problem 2 there. On the slabby section you can see 4 pieces of tape on the start there. And now they're heading on to problem 3. Different to what happened yesterday and on Thursday is only 3 problems for the girls instead of 4. That's just due to the format. And also help them not get too utterly physically destroyed, having done a bunch of speed races and having to climb for boulders and do a lead route afterwards is physically taxing, so they've dropped it down to 3. Also, one of the other differences is the time. Instead of 5 minutes they only have 4 per problem, and here you can see the girls just chatting together, trying to work out some beta.
Yeah, just to follow up from what Alistair was saying, it's quite cool now because this is the first time we've actually run a correct IFSC final round where we have a viewing time with just the finalists and then 4 minutes on per boulder. So I'm really excited to see what happens and watch the competition go ahead.
You can see all the climbers just working together, trying to figure out some beta, work out what they're going to do. For those of you that aren't familiar, beta is the word used by climbers to describe the process of movement. Where you're putting your hands, where you're putting your feet, how you're moving your body around on the wall, what order are you using the holds. And interesting to know, the competitors can only touch the start holds. They can't touch any of the other holds on the wall, but they can touch the start holds, get a good idea of how the holds feel. You can see all of them just taking a bit of care not to touch any of the other holds that'll accidentally give them an attempt. Chris, could you tell us a little bit about the scoring for the boulders and how the tops, the zones and the attempts work?
Yeah, so the scoring for the boulders is sometimes a bit difficult, but essentially how it's going to work is the number of tops you get, then the amount of zone holds, and then attempts to tops and attempts to zone. And it's just going to work through the order like that. So if you top a boulder, it's going to be more impressive than just a zone. Now we can see the girls going back into the isolation room and we'll be heading out shortly.
Thanks for that, Chris. Now you can see everyone just getting ready. There's a look at problem 1, some orange holds, some big volumes. Problem 3 in the background there. Some officials and the Western Cape government, one of our sponsors of this event. Shout out to them. Chris, let's have a look at problem 1. What do you think of the holds, how it's looking?
Yeah, problem 1 is looking pretty cool. Quite a powerful steep boulder. It's got a nice awkward start, which is quite cool. Like 3 stripes on the left hand side with 1 stripe on the right. So quite excited to see what happens. Yeah, gnarly pushing, working around poor holds, so should be in for a goodie.
Okay, can I move around?
And this is now just a good look at problem 2. You can see the starts all on that same volume over there. And Chris, what you were on some of those holds yesterday. How are they to stand on and to hold on to? What's the texture like?
The texture is actually surprisingly good, but I do struggle with my technique and slabbing ability. So to me, this looks like quite a challenging boulder, but I think the girls are going to crush it and do pretty well. Looks quite promising.
Yeah, you can get a good look at the top hold there, just above the zone hold. And the top hold is just a volume with something we call a dual text volume. So that white section is quite slippery, and underneath the blue section is textured, and athletes will have to press up to hold their body into the wall on that hold. They won't be able to pull down on it at all. That being a cubed climbing volume manufactured in Johannesburg. One of the few local manufacturers of climbing holds and volumes that we have here in South Africa. And this is a good look over here at problem 3. Some bigger holds, a little more powerful. Chris, you want to chat about that a bit?
Yeah, problem number 3 looks pretty cool with the dynamic first move and high risk last move. So also going to be a really cool one to see and watch the girls compete on. So yeah, so far the boulders are looking really good. Really psyched to see what happens in this round. Watch the girls throw down.
Coming up next, we have a look at the start. And we have the start list. First athlete to be coming out will be Credo Casimiri from Uganda, the only non-South African on the start list today. Bouldering, one of the aspects of climbing she's most comfortable with. And her time has just begun. See, she has a chalk bag with her just in case she gets higher on this problem and needs to chalk up further along the wall. Can see the start clearly marked with those 4 pieces of red tape, and climbers need to get one of their limbs to correspond with each of those pieces of tape, either a hand or a foot. And Credo not getting an official start there, needing to get her second foot onto the volume for it to count. And if she does manage to make her way higher up onto the wall, the judges will pull her off for that. In order for a start to be deemed official, athletes need to be in control of all the holds, or at least be touching all of the holds that are marked with the tape. You can see the official just making sure she knows what to do there.
Yeah, it's quite cool. This is actually Uganda's first ever competition, which is really cool to see them here. So yeah, big shout out to the Ugandan team for coming through. Really cool to have another African country competing.
Uganda has quite a lot of outdoor climbing, not really much indoor climbing. No lead facilities, no speed facilities. Credo getting the official start this time. Just managing to not hold on to the next hold coming out of the start, but she still has quite a bit of time to try this. Chris, could you maybe tell us, I'm sure we'll see this a little bit later with some of the other athletes, but is there sort of a ratio of how many times you should try a boulder during a competition? Sort of a ratio of rest to work depending on how intense the boulder is?
Well, that I think is just going to go on personal preference and the start of the boulder. If you have a really powerful boulder, you want to give it fewer attempts in the round compared to like low percentage, like coordination moves. You can just kind of try quite a few attempts. a boulder like this, first move is quite spicy, so you can kind of burn through some attempts, but obviously attempts to top do matter, so you want to play it smart, make sure each attempt is really good, and essentially just give it your all.
Thanks for that, Chris. So in a little moment, we'll have some more athletes out. For now, we just get to watch Credo see if she can figure out the start of this boulder. There's quite a big reach over with the left hand, and really you have to work hard to hold your weight between your hands and your feet there while your left hand moves higher. Up in the top just on the right, you can see the zone hold, and for athletes that don't make it to the top, that zone hold will be used to just split the field up and make sure that we have a good ranking between the athletes.
Yeah, it's also something to point out, this wall is quite steep, so it's quite a challenge to keep your chest in on the starting position, and that is definitely the limiting factor here. Just make sure your chest stays close to the wall to keep your body in.
Credo just dropping her foot down there to try and hold her body into the wall, but as she moves her body out to get it, her momentum just pulling her off the wall there. Credo with just more than half a minute left. Sometimes athletes will decide they're not making much progress on a problem and decide not to use their full time, rather saving their energy for another problem further down the line. And there's the time done.
Yeah, this clock and Bull have been quite weird, quite strange, but rather entertaining. Next up we have Catherine Honegger. Super psyched to see how she goes.
Can see Catherine just taking her mask off for the climbing. Due to COVID-19, we have a lot of procedures and restrictions in the venue today. See Catherine managing to get the start there. Almost managing to hold that hold on her first attempt. Getting a little bit of chalk before she hops back on the wall. Taking a moment to compose herself. It's really intimidating coming out in the finals. Mental game, a key component of climbing performance, especially in competitions. She manages to hold that first hold. Just getting her feet back on the wall to take some weight off her hands. Getting a good high foot there, and let's see how she moves up into the next hold. An undercling that is not as in cut as you would like it to be on this steep wall. Pinching two little screw-ons on the top of that volume. Those big white boxes are called volumes. Catherine just not quite managing to stick the top. She'll be really impressed with that attempt. Lets her know that the boulder is doable for her.
Now I find this one of the most challenging periods because you've just done rather well on your first or second attempt, and now you got to kind of play the clock, run it down a bit, make sure you recovered enough. But also with the adrenaline pumping, you paranoid and like scared. You just want to jump back on, do the boulder so you can start thinking about the next one, get your head back in the game. So now, yeah, let's see how Kath manages the stressful situation.
Catherine, one of the local athletes here from Cape Town itself. I've done some recreational climbing with her, some sport climbing in Boulder, some trad climbing in the Magaliesberg. Catherine getting a good start there, sticking the first move out of the start, just using her feet to control her body. Catherine using the top of the volume just to get a little bit higher. That is allowed in competitions. If the route setters didn't want that to be an option, they would have taped the top of that volume, but they thought it's not the worst idea to give them a little extra foot. And Catherine just a little tired there, dropping out of the undercling. Gives you an idea of how steep the wall is and how not great that hold is. Catherine now having given 3 attempts and got to the zone on her second attempt. can see one of the brushes getting involved. Matthew, one of the setters here at City Rock, Cape Town. And differently to Thursday and Friday, we have brushes for the finals. Catherine getting a heel this time instead of a toe. Just using that to pull her body closer to the wall. Just not managing to get it. Deciding to call her quits after that attempt. Save some energy for the next two problems. She did really well to get to the top on her second attempt, but not managing to control the hold and get the top. Up next we have Alyssa Meyer, 18 years old, ranked 4th in South Africa, 7B plus for lead and boulder, and just under 17 seconds for speed. Athlete from Cape Town.
Yeah, it was quite cool. We were chatting to the setters this morning, and they were up until about 3 o'clock this morning working ruthlessly on the boulders and lead routes just to make sure they're up to standards and of quality. So they put their effort into these, and so far so good.
In some ways you could say that climbing competitions are a competition between the athletes and the route setters. Can the route setters set the perfect problem to separate the athletes? And each climber, of course, hoping to get a top on all of the boulders, setting different styles of boulders for, not necessarily for different athletes, but different styles of climbing favors different styles of athletes. Alyssa dropping her chalk bag, deciding she's not going to need it higher up on the wall, and just rehearsing the moves in her mind, making sure that she knows exactly what she's doing when she's on the wall. Once you're on the wall, there's not much time to think. It's much better if you can just execute. It's really working hard to hold that hold and just not latching it comfortably enough to stay on the wall. This is a really intimidating time, hopping onto the first boulder, coming out of speed. The first boulder is always a little bit intimidating. Takes a moment or two to get into the zone. Alyssa will be hoping to get to the zone hold on this boulder, at least give her a little bit of points in this competition so far. Just really struggling to get her body up and holding on to that next hold. See Alyssa with a well-stocked chalk bag there, some scissors just in case. Needs to go 127 hours if her finger gets stuck. I'm sure the route setters have made sure that that's not an option. Alyssa wondering if she can try some different beta, but going back to the intended beta that the route setters planned, that's the easiest way to get into the start there. And on a boulder like this, especially for the first boulder where you're not making much progress, it's really easy to get frustrated. Chris, how do you feel hopping onto the wall and struggling on the first boulder? Is there anything she could be doing to help calm herself down?
Hey, first boulders are always quite a gnarly one. For me, I think just trying to breathe through it and like relax is the best beta, but each their own really. You have to see how you feel in each situation, and also it depends. Like I prefer a steeper boulder, something a bit more powerful, while a slab could be a bit more challenging to control your mind. Alyssa trying a different start position with her minute buzzer going. Will she make this work? Looking good so far, but has she tied herself up in a knot? We will see. Oh, unfortunately just not working. She has gone back to the original start position. I think the best approach would just be to take that move rather slow and creep your way around the corner. We'll see if she managed it in her last few attempts.
It's It's really tempting with the time ticking down to just try again and again and again, but athletes are wise to take a moment. That try might have given her a little bit of hope. She's going to decide to give another quick go and an attempt to get to the zone. Just not making it. That angle giving us a good idea of the steepness of the wall. We had Boulder 4 on this wall a little bit earlier, and the route getting a little brush between attempts. Up next, Tegan Oates, Johannesburg climber, one of the younger competitors in the field here. Can see some liquid chalk marks on her legs, perhaps a reminder of some kind. She gets straight involved with the start. Manages to stick it so far. Just struggling to get her foot onto that hold. Manages to do it and slow swinging down. Getting a left heel next to her hand. Heel hook is a common move in climbing. Climbers use it to take advantage of all aspects of their shoe. Can be tempting to use just the toe, but often the heel allows you to open up your hips and get your sense of gravity closer to the wall. Tegan just struggling to get a bit of purchase on that first undercling of the boulder.
Yeah, that undercling looks like you really need to stand up really hard into it and use your feet to push. So yeah, I think the girls are struggling with the high heels, but we'll have to see.
In some cases, the heel is really great for taking some weight off your hands, but it's not the best when you need to push and apply pressure into a handhold the way that undercling requires. Underclings are notoriously bad the lower your body is in relation to that hold, but as soon as you stand up and you're holding that hold by your waist with your chest above it, much easier to hold on to. And once you're in that position, it's a lot easier to take a moment to catch your breath or generate some power to get to the next hold. Tegan just using her height to get to that hold. Slightly more in control than some of the shorter athletes have had to do it. You see Tegan taking a moment here just to get some chalk on her fingers, catch her breath a little bit. Even though she's just tried the start a few times, these boulders are quite intense and require quite a lot of effort. A friend of mine once said, if it was easy, it would be called hiking. Tegan managing to stick onto that. Let's see if she can get up and move a little bit better off this undercling, get a little higher on the wall. Going again for the heel by her hand. And that undercling is the zone hold. And I'm sure the judges would have given her the zone on her previous attempt. I'm just really wondering what she can do to make this boulder a little easier for herself. Hanging around in one place is not the solution. Bouldering by nature a powerful and dynamic, not always dynamic, but a powerful discipline in climbing, especially at this angle. Hanging around in one place saps energy, and energy is important for this competition. Tegan Oates from Johannesburg back on the wall, not managing to hold on to that first move. Having a quick look at the time, half a minute left. She's going to give it another attempt. For those of you who are just tuning in, you can get the results on the IFSC World Cup Series app live as the judges are putting them into their scoring tablets. Quick shout out Western Cape government, giving us some support in hosting this competition, and a little regulation in terms of coronavirus. You can see Matcha, everyone else wearing masks. Danielle Visser about to hop on problem 1. Danielle currently ranked 6th after her performance on the speed wall. Gets a good start. Still has her mask on. Not quite managing to stick it. Chris, when you're climbing, it's quite easy to get so focused on the boulders you forget about the crowd, forget about the mask on your face. Do you find yourself getting so absorbed in the climbing?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's the only thing you're focusing on, and the mask is a second tier concern. You just want to get to the top of everything. Yeah, it's also quite crazy how some of the athletes are making this first move look really casual, while others are struggling a bit more. So hopefully we'll see Danielle stick it now.
One of the factors that affects how easy or hard the start is power in the antagonist muscles, the muscles that aren't necessarily always used for climbing, having really to press down with the right hand as opposed to pulling with the right hand. Triceps, the muscles on the back of the arm becoming important, and stabilizing the shoulder, stabilizing the elbow so that athletes can hold that position and move their hand slowly, get control of that hold before they have to transfer their weight to it. The length of the arm also being important. An interesting thing to ask a climber is what is their ape index, which is the ratio of their height to their wingspan, how long their arms are in relation to their height. Climbers with a good ape index will really have an easier time on this boulder. Having longer arms and shorter bodies allows them to fit into that gap, keep some weight on their hands and their feet, and keep their center of gravity closer to the wall while still reaching that hold. And you're wondering if she can break the beta, deciding not today. And get a good idea of the angle of the wall. Then as the athletes move their body higher, the angle just pushing them out and away from the wall. Really close on that attempt. And y'all just having a little smile to herself, wondering how the rest of the boulders are going to go if this one's not going as well as she had hoped.
Yeah, it's quite cool how this format's working, because the athletes will get quite a long time to rest and recover between each boulder, so they can really put a lot of effort and energy into each attempt, rather than just the 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. Danielle getting established again. Oh, creeping up nice and slowly, but just not managing to keep it together as she comes out.
And something that she changed on this attempt is to get her right hand off that orange hold and just a little bit higher on the volume in an effort to get her body a bit higher.
Also something, you see Danielle using her fingers on the orange hold, not really her palm. Could be a bit more positive, but not too sure. She slides her right hand up a little bit on her last attempt. So a bit interesting.
Danielle is out of time, heading back into isolation for a rest and a recovery, maybe a little pep talk to herself. Caitlin coming out next, Caitlin Burwood from KwaZulu-Natal. She is hopping on Boulder 1 of the ladies finals of the IFSC-Africa 2020 Olympic qualifying event here in Cape Town, South Africa. With me in the commentary box, Christopher Kossa, one of the athletes you'll see competing tomorrow. I'm Alistair Fenton. Thanks for joining us. Caitlin Burwood on her first few attempts of Boulder 1. She's hoping to get to the zone and the top. Of course, with the scoring, tops being more important than zones. But if you don't get a top, it's better to get a zone than to get nothing. Caitlin just taking a moment to have a squiz. Make sure that it's as she expected. Really struggling to just get her left hand around, trying to wrap the hold from the side instead of catch it straight on.
Yeah, it also looks like Caitlin is struggling to get the heights, just pulling up into her shoulders on that first hold, which would make a world of difference. So there you go, she sticks it at the second hand. Let's see how she goes in the rest of the boulder. High heel as most of the other girls have used. Big stand up into the undercling, just trying to find some purchase on it. Oh, yeah, that was an interesting knee scum / bar.
Something Caitlin did well there was use the toe of her left foot once she was into that zone hold. The judges will have awarded her the zone hold there. She had it in control for a good few seconds. Taking a deep breath, getting ready to give everything on this attempt. It's just not enough to stick that first move. See a little bit of possibly a skin issue there. Shaking and squeezing her left hand. Caitlin's given quite a few attempts on this boulder already. But without attempts, there's no chance at getting to the top. But athletes are sometimes wise to take a moment to catch their breath, generate a little bit more power in their muscles so that they can give a quality attempt. Caitlin with just more than a minute left. Just not managing to hold the momentum, pulling her body out to face the judges, the scorers, and the very few competitors and coaches that we have in the venue. The rankings at the moment: Tegan currently in first for the boulders with 1 zone in 1 attempt, and Catherine in second place with 1 zone in 2 attempts. Caitlin, Alyssa and Danielle so far in 3rd, 5th and 4th respectively. Caitlin having gotten a zone in 4 attempts, Alyssa and Danielle and Credo no zone holds yet. Our next athlete coming up, Georgie Dorwood. She's bouldered 7C. This boulder should be a little easier. Let's see how she does. Obviously in a competition there's not the time that you have to do a boulder outside, and the pressure is significantly higher. Georgie's been doing some climbing in Mose Valley in America, well-known bouldering destination. Let's see if that bouldering power helps her out.
Interesting, Georgie actually tried to do it more dynamically with swinging and catching the right hand, while the other girls have just matched the first hold and then moved on. Could be quite a cool beta to see if it works.
Georgie probably hoping that her stronger, more powerful bouldering physique will take her through into the next hold as well, which she does really easily there. Gets a heel next to her hand there with the left. Now she'll be looking to move up into the zone, using her center of gravity really well to make the most of that undercling. She does well to get into the 2 screw-ons. One more move and she's on the top, which she manages to hit but not hold on to. You can see that top hold being a little more rounder, a little slopier.
Yeah, I was having a look at that top hold before the round began, and it was really just a little edge on the top of a rather big sloper. So the girls have to be quite accurate in where they hit the hold, and also use a lot of tension within their feet to stick, keep their body on. Yeah, now you can see the top hold not looking too good.
Yeah, you can see that top hold really big with only a small section of chalk on it. And in some cases that makes it a little harder to hit that section accurately when you can't see, especially the athletes being low on the wall there.
Yeah, the left hand pinch before the top hold is also pretty bad, and the foot on the volume quite small, so they've got their work cut out for them, looking quite challenging.
And of course, to get the points for topping, athletes need to control the top hold with both hands. Even though Georgie and Catherine have touched the top hold, we haven't had any tops on this problem yet. Georgie again with the same beta she used previously, working well for her there. Coming into the middle of those 3 volumes to get into the zone hold. Georgie will really be hoping to get a top on this boulder. She manages to stick it, feet cutting just for a second. She hasn't got it yet. She got it. Good job, Georgie.
Yeah, Georgie making that boulder look super casual. Really excited to see how she does in the rest of the round.
Our last competitor will be coming out next. Erin Sturkenberg, currently in first position after a really good 2-3 runs on the speed wall. Can see one of the brushes there, just making sure that the problem is in optimum condition for each competitor. Erin making this, making the reach quite comfortably, but just not managing to hold the swing out on that first hold. Using similar beta to Georgie there, going straight to the second hold with the right hand. Moving quite easily up into those underclings. Erin's been spending a lot of time climbing overhanging sport routes in KwaZulu-Natal, her home province. Sure that power is coming in useful on these overhanging boulders.
Yeah, as you can see, Erin just missed the sweet spot on that last hold. It's quite cool to see as well. You can see when athletes have read boulders together, both Georgie and Erin using pretty similar beta to get through the bottom sequence. So you can just see how they read it beforehand and have already spoken about this boulder.
Sometimes the route setters throw a little spanner in the works. Some sneaky beta is required, but this one is pretty straightforward and seems to be going down just the same way the athletes read it. Erin just taking a moment to catch her breath. She's one of the stronger competitors in the field, currently in first place, and just having a look at the time before she gets back on the wall. Can see her doing that first move quite comfortably now that she knows exactly what it is she needs to be doing with her body. And in terms of the setting, sometimes route setters will make a route simple that requires a lot of power. Sometimes they'll make it complex, requires a little bit of mind power. Erin really doing well to get the top there, confirming with the judge that she has the top before she drops down. And that'll put Erin in first place for the bouldering as well. 3 attempts to get to the top, and she got the zone on her second attempt. Erin and Georgie tied in tops and zones and attempts, but the roll back to the speed puts Erin in first place. Erin and Georgie, the only 2 climbers to have topped Boulder 1. They'll be hoping to continue that into Boulder 2. Black Diamond, a manufacturer of climbing equipment, a well-known brand here in SA.
Yeah, just talking about the brands, it was quite cool to see Erin climbing in a pair of Scarpas. It's not a brand brought into South Africa, So it's really cool to see it on the walls. I think the only other athlete climbing in Scarpas is Ollie Marks. So just lekker to see out there.
And for our international viewers, lekker is a South African word, an Afrikaans word. It means good, nice, sweet. We use it a lot here on the southern tip of Africa. One would argue that we are in the lekkerest part of Africa. Credo Casimiri from Uganda, she would argue that her slice of Africa is the more lekker. Credo struggling to get a start on that volume. Can tell from the angle of that volume that it doesn't provide the best surface. And interestingly enough, an athlete's attempt will count once their foot is off the ground, even if they haven't established on that boulder. Credo not making use of the screwed on hold on that volume. Credo looking like she just almost might be able to stand up there, but her shoes slipping a little bit. On the volume, on a slab, on a volume, it's quite important to get your weight over your feet. Too far forward or too far back and your feet will slip, and Credo seems to be falling into the trap of leaning a little further forward in an attempt to generate more friction on the hold.
Yeah, with the low angle of these volumes, you really have to put a lot of force through your feet just to make sure your feet don't slip and your rubber stays in contact with these holds. Yeah, Credo now opting to use the hold. Let's see what she can do. Still just struggling to keep contact. You can see her feet just sliding off the edge of that volume. She has now looking pretty good. Oh.
Of course, in Uganda, with a small climbing population, there's not the variety of shoes that we have here in South Africa. And even in relation to the world, Chris was talking about Scarpa a little earlier. You know, a little easier sometimes when you have high performance climbing shoes. The quality of the rub is quite important when you have to stand on something that is the opposite of horizontal. There you can see the start. Female Boulder 2. Credo just wondering how she can get her weight onto her feature and get them to stick. Making good use of that blue screw on hold on the volume at the moment. I was chatting to one of the Ugandans a little earlier. They've only quite recently had a boulder gym that's opened up in Uganda. Chris, you've climbed overseas a little bit, traveled to a few World Cups, done a few Youth World Championships in your time. How important is it for athletes to have good training facilities at home, and how does that affect how well you can compete against other athletes who spend more time in different facilities?
Yeah, facilities definitely make a huge difference, but it's never impossible. It's just if you can put your mind to it and really work hard. But don't get me wrong, when you have a world-class facility to train in and like prepare for, you have the same holes they're using on the circuit, it does make a difference. You're just a little bit more comfortable, not so far out there. You're just a bit more confident in your own abilities. So it's really cool to have been able to, and fortunate enough to travel around and train on international walls and facilities with other international climbers. I consider myself very lucky to have been able to do that.
Catherine looking like she also might struggle a little bit on this slabby start, but just managing to get some weight into her feet a little better. Also slipping as well. One of the techniques climbers can use on slabs like this is to relax the calf muscle and drop that heel down, get more surface contact with the sole of the shoe. Friction, of course, being an important thing, and the amount of surface that you have between your shoe and the wall, increasing the friction.
Yeah, a really cool angle we just saw to see the angle of the slab and what the athletes are having to wrestle up.
Yeah, and the head root setter for this competition. I'm sure they did a lot of forerunning before they decided that these were the boulders, and Catherine almost taking a little chunk out of her shin on the corner of that boulder as her foot slipped off.
Yeah, I would say that the slab is probably the most scary boulder to be climbing on, just because of foot slips and chunks out of knees. It really does suck when you connect with the volume.
Especially when you connect with the volume while you're falling off the boulder you were hoping to be topping. I did a little bit of forerunning on the women's qualification boulders, and I managed to scrape my shin quite nicely on the slab. Catherine looking in a slightly better position there. You can see there's a small hold on that next long volume, but of course, being on the slab, that hold can't be too good, otherwise the athletes will have too easy a time, and that's not what competition is about, unfortunately.
Yeah, Kath's starting to look really, really comfortable in that starting position, but just really suffering as she's moving across the wall to the next volume. Hopefully she will keep confidence up and manage to continue along the boulder. Yeah, looking really good. Oh, really just out of there.
Just less than a minute remaining for Catherine Honegger, Cape Town local, Joburg origin. Can see her feet there on the volume. It's really hard in that moment when you're transitioning from the foot that's holding onto your weight to a higher foot, and as you move higher up that volume, your sense of gravity moves closer to the wall, and it's easier for you to tilt backwards and slide off. You can see there's a small screw on the next volume, just enough to maintain balance, but not enough to really pull your weight onto that hold. Catherine doing really well to get a higher foot here. She very nearly gets to the zone in time. Little smile. Next athlete out, Alyssa. Alyssa Mayer has been overseas to compete, done a few IFSC Youth World Championships. She is hoping to do well on the slab today. You can see slightly more delicate, a little more confidence on that hold, dropping her heels down really nicely. Moving really well up on the slab here. Managing to hold a little foot slip there. Gets onto a small foothold. Should be really happy with this performance. Just hoping to get into the zone there, and she gets the zone. That's the first athlete so far to reach the zone. Needs to be conscientious here with her body. Make sure she doesn't get her center of gravity too far away from the wall, which will pull her off. You see she's just inching her hands up that volume. Makes it to a small little screw, and now we can see that upside down cubed volume on the top there. Made in Johannesburg, that volume. Alyssa just not managing to control the top, and she'll be encouraged and so disheartened after that attempt. She knows that she can do the boulder. Will she be able to do it again? And will she be able to control the top?
Damn, that is always Heartbreak Hotel. But she was looking super confident up that slab, using her feet really well. Hips were close on the wall the whole time. She was looking really good up there.
That was really the strongest attempt we've seen so far on Boulder 2. Alyssa with just more than half her time remaining. Hops back onto the wall. Moving quite confidently up onto these holds now that she knows she can do it. Her beta looking good there, using the left palm to just press her body up into the undercling volume. Undercling, of course, being a hold that we hold upside down, similar to the undercling on problem 1. Inching her hands up and along that volume. Makes it to the top. Look of determination on her face. If she has anything to say about it, she's going to the top. One hand on the top, but she needs to get a second. In control for it to count, and she does. Very excited after that.
Yeah, super smooth top from Alyssa. Looked like she was in control the whole way up. Yeah, feet weren't sliding at all, looking really good. Making those first moves look casual.
And of course for the slab, grace and poise is one of the techniques climbers can use to do well on the slab. Young Christopher Cossa here in the commentary box, not a huge fan of the slabs, but in an effort to be a well-rounded competitor, has been spending some time training them. Up next on the wall, Tegan Oates from Johannesburg. Really struggling to inch her left foot out there. She'd do well to get it onto that little screw on. She does. Using her whole body on that first hold out of the start. Placing her foot a little bit further away from the wall there in an attempt to help keep her body in.
Yeah, Tegan has opted to go above these volumes while Alyssa stayed low on her feet and sank through them. So let's see how this beta works for Tegan.
Tegan, one of the taller competitors in the field today. Just wondering how she's going to get her feet a little more left here. She trusts the smear with the right foot. Almost overbalances. And she does. Tegan used to do a lot of dancing, and that I'm sure is helping her on this boulder. That was a really strong first attempt from Tegan. Tegan gets back on the wall. Established on the start there. See one of her feet just slipping a tiny bit on that steep volume. As we heard from James earlier, James Barnes, one of the other competitors who was with me for the speed. It's quite different competing without a crowd to support you. Often at this stage on a boulder the crowd would be cheering. Instead there's just some music and the few other competitors in the building, few other officials. Tegan with one hand on the top, using the left toe to control her body and makes the top. She'll be very pleased with her performance on that. Let me give you an update on the scores. We're still waiting for a few more climbers to Boulder, but that attempt, that top from Alyssa, put her currently into second place. Those of you that are on the IFSC app will see that. And Tegan in fourth. That should move up as her score is updated. Up next, Danielle Visser, KwaZulu-Natal climber. Affectionately called KZN for those who don't want to say the whole KwaZulu-Natal word. Danielle looking quite good on this first slabby volume with the feet. Bouldering being one of Danielle's stronger disciplines. You can see she's quite pleased to have gotten so close to the zone on her first attempt. Moving her body well, getting a good right foot up there. She's in control of the zone. The judges will have awarded that to her. Just needs to move her feet a little further up and a little further left on that volume that's underneath her hands. Of course, having the right foot on that previous volume just helps her control her sense of gravity. You can see just quite how delicate this boulder requires the climbers to be. Having a little shake out just to rest the muscles in her hands, in her arms. Danielle, having finished 7th in the speed, still has an opportunity to make up some ground here in the bouldering.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Danielle is still on her flash attempt, so been on the wall for quite a while now. So let's see what she can do. Realizing it's a dual text, and let's see how she manages this. Looking quite promising with the easy flash. What a journey.
And a flash on problem 1 for Danielle Visser will really give her a little push higher up in the rankings. So far with 1 top in 1 attempt. Next athlete up on the wall, Caitlin Burwood, also from KZN. Looking quite comfortable on the slabby start.
Caitlin also climbing with a mask on. Not sure if it was forgotten or just doesn't think she needs to take it off. But definitely looks like she's in the zone.
Caitlin still on her flash attempt, and if she sends us on her first go, will be really good for her confidence. Just wondering what she should be doing with her hands here, deciding to move down in an attempt to get better feet on the lower volume there. You can see the zone hold clearly marked by that black sticker that says zone and the orange tape. You can see just above the zone hold a really small screw on the wall there that climbers can use to help get their body higher. Caitlin having a little chalk up session there. Chalk is the powder that climbers use on their hands. Dry the sweat, make them less slippery, more sticky. Caitlin just not quite as confident as she was on that first attempt and not in control of her momentum, and that just pulled her off the wall there as she tried to get into that hold a little too quickly. Back on the wall again and the same mistake again. That's got to be frustrating. Caitlin with a minute and a half left. She's got in the zone, but she would love to get a top. Caitlin just struggling to get into this as easily as she did on her first attempt.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The slab can be super frustrating sometimes. Sometimes you just get lucky, other times it's all thought. But she's looking quite confident now, cruising along. Let's see what she can do. With about 40 seconds left on the clock, this is probably going to be her last attempt on a rather slabbing boulder. She's getting called off for probably an unofficial start. She needs to get going immediately now if she wants to be able to get to the top of the boulder, as it is a slow one.
You can see Caitlin just making sure to get her hand back onto the start. That's got to be frustrating, being called off after getting such good progress. There's the timer. Looks like she's going to run out of time on this problem. The brush is quickly getting involved, making sure that the problem is in the best condition for each athlete. Our next competitor on the wall is Georgie Dorwood. Georgie is a big fan of bouldering, spends a bit of time bouldering here in Cape Town. Getting a good start there. Managing to hold a little twist of the body there. And see, one of the techniques climbers are using is to really get their hips a little further left over that lower foothold on the lowest of those three long thin volumes. Volumes are quite an interesting thing and quite new to the climbing scene in South Africa, as they've seen their popularity increase around the world of comp climbing. Just makes climbing a little different when you have a bigger hold to use, larger surface area that you can use to control where your body is, as opposed to a small rounder or squarer hold.
Yeah, it's quite cool to see, because the South African setting standard has been rather outdoor orientated, and the only international influence we've had was through watching competitions. So just trying to mimic other moves. So it's really cool to now see it actually paying off and how the setting has improved so well. Georgie looking quite confident moving through the sequence. Let's see how she does on the rest of the boulder.
Georgie managing to get her right hand onto that screw on above the third volume, using that to lay back on and apply some pressure onto her feet to help them stick on that volume. Really moving smoothly and confidently into the top, pressing up with her hands to maintain that body position. Our final competitor out for women's Boulder 2, Erin Sturkenberg, should be making an appearance in a few seconds. There she is, getting a little bit of chalk. Erin be hoping for a flash of this boulder, doing it in her first attempt in an effort to seal in her lead here in Cape Town. This is the IFSC African Championships. And Erin is a hot contender for the Olympic position.
Well, it's quite cool to see Erin also did the first move rather quickly, while the other girls have tried to keep it quite static. So yeah, just different betas working and seem to be working quite well.
Erin using her feet quite nicely and just trying to go to that a little too quickly. Slabby boulders, of course, requiring a little slower and more deliberate movement. You can see Erin just giving her feet a little brush on her pants in an effort to improve the friction between the rubber and the wall. The mats that are used to protect the climbers should they fall off sometimes get quite chalky, and that can affect the friction between a climber's feet and the surface of the wall. Much slower to the screw on, and that much better attempt here from Erin using her heel to keep her body from falling off. Not the flash she wanted, but she'll be very happy with topping this boulder in 2 attempts. We're moving on to problem 3. Here we have the score sheet, women's combined boulder. Let me fill you in with some results. If you are, we don't have any live scores, but if you are on the app, it'll have updated. That is the IFSC World Cup Series app. First place, Erin, 2 tops, 2 zones. Second place, Georgie with 2 tops and 2 zones. In third is Tegan with 1 top and 2 zones, followed by Catherine with 1 zone. Alyssa Mayer with 1 top and 1 zone. Climbers should be and here we have problem 3, the final problem that these ladies will be getting on. Some nice big green holds. Credo Casimiri from Uganda. She's on the wall, takes off her face mask. This boulder requiring quite a bit of dynamic power to get out of that first hold. And the official just coming over to say, when you're starting, you need to make sure that all 4 limbs are on the taped start holds at the same time.
So yeah, the first move is definitely looking like quite a dynamic move, low percentage. So let's see how the girls read it. It's going to be really cool to see. Looks like could potentially be a toe hook catch, but we'll see what happens.
So I've had a look at that next hold that the girls will be going to. It is quite in cut, quite easy to hold, but of course the momentum required to reach it might just pull them off as they go past it.
And so often with these coordination boulders, it's not necessarily the physical capability, it's just getting your body in the correct position to just line up with the holds and stop your momentum at the correct time.
These boulders are of course on site. The climbers don't get to watch anyone else climb them beforehand, so they don't have any idea besides what they could discuss during the observation period of how to do these boulders. Credo not very experienced in competition style bouldering, just struggling to figure out what to do here. The wall is still quite overhanging. Even though these footholds are quite big, it's quite hard to get your weight onto them to go to this hold statically. Of course, the official coming to say hands and feet on the start. This is the first international competition for climbers from Uganda. Credo just confirming that she is correct on the start. Underclinging that start hold in an effort to generate some power, get her body a bit higher. Just wondering, what do I need to do to get higher up on this boulder? 1 minute remaining on the clock. Chris, up next we're going to be having the lead portion of this competition. How important is it for athletes to save some energy now on the boulders for the lead?
It's not necessarily that important to save energy for the next round, because like the athletes have been training for this style of event, so have been pushing the whole day of competition. So there will be a break between the disciplines. So personally, I give every round like my best shot and use as much energy as I need. But you got to play it smart. You got to be a bit careful. Skin is probably the most limiting factor in these rounds. And Credo just calling it quits as she goes back into the isolation room.
Up next on the boulders, Catherine Honegger. Catherine has been getting more involved in bouldering since her move to Cape Town. Cape Town being the bouldering capital of South Africa. Up in the north we suffer from a distinct lack of quality bouldering, but we make up for it with our good sport climbing. Catherine sticking the first move out of the start and establishing well onto the zone hold. Gets a good heel into that side pull. Pressing really well with her leg there, and she's looking to do a big dynamic move into the top of this boulder. Just not managing to get her feet into the right position.
Yeah, that last move looks like a really big left-hand dyno off to the side. Quite cool, low percentage, but risky. Should be a very entertaining last move. Kath also making the first dynamic move look quite comfortable. We'll see her attempt it again. Oh, just not getting that foot up in time. Oh, sticking it, looking good. Back up to the zone hold. Let's see how she moves onto this last move.
Can see that left hand not really having much to hold on to there. Catherine pressing with that hand in an effort to take some weight off her feet. Catherine's hoping this won't go the same way as Boulder 1, where her first attempt was her best attempt. Catherine taking a moment just to go through the boulder, make sure that she's doing it in the most efficient way possible. Gets lined up on the start. Just not managing to get her feet onto that lower big green hole to control the swing. Hopping straight back on the wall. Went a little slower, a little smoother there. That was much better. Getting into that position to line up for the next move. Just slipping out.
Damn, it looks like she's just kind of tying herself up with that heel. Definitely looks like it's probably the issue. But let's see how she reads the rest of it. Yeah, it looks like she's probably going to try run down the clock to give enough time for one more good attempt. But if she does fall off the first move, be able to try it again. Just with the risky moves, you need to play the clock quite well.
Catherine sticking the first move just with the left hand there. Going back into the right to the left heel. Gets her right foot much better on top of the hold. Just not enough to carry her over into the top. Can see that white sheet hanging in front of the bouldering wall there, the isolation tent, so athletes can't watch each other climb. It's important for a fair bouldering round that each athlete tries the boulder by themselves without any information from anyone else. Alyssa had a really strong performance on boulder 2. Let's see how she does on this different style, more dynamic coordination boulder. Wondering if she can wrap the hand and reach that next hold statically. Committing to the dynamic move and just swinging off a little bit. Yeah, much better attempt from Melissa there. Getting that same heel as Catherine. Using that right hand pinch a little bit better. Gets her body a bit higher. Wondering what she's going to do with her right foot. Just not figuring it out in time before her arms stop holding her onto the wall. If you just joined us, we're live in Cape Town, South Africa. This is IFSC-Africa Championships. These girls are hoping to qualify for the Africa position for the Olympic Games next year in Tokyo. Climbing, first time in the Olympics. A big deal for our growing sport. IFSC, the International Federation of Sport Climbing, being quite involved in growing climbing as a sport. Climbing, of course, having a strong recreational history around the world. Alyssa just requesting that some of the holds get brushed in an attempt to increase how easy they are to hold.
Just making that first move look super easy. Oh, gets the foot across, looking good. Very promising. How's she going to read this last move? Oh, just with a miss. Almost got the hands in, fingertips.
Like Chris said earlier, that point in a competition is heartbreak hotel for an athlete. Just a minute left on the clock. Will she have enough energy to get back up there? Will she have the energy she needs to push her body a few centimeters higher and stick the top hold of this boulder? 45 seconds left on the clock. If she's going to make it to the top, she needs to get going. She sticks coming out of the start. A good sign on her attempts on this boulder. Alyssa's been really strong on that right hand pinch there. And she moves really quickly into the setup position for going for the top. Just wondering what to do with her feet. Just not quite getting there. And she'll be out of time. No time left for another attempt from Melissa Meyer. That was a really strong few attempts from her there. Tegan Oates, next competitor on the mat. Tegan eyeing up this first move. Just going a little too hard in her momentum, carrying off that next hold.
Yeah, she's just having to land that foot and then she should be able to stick that move. Just a bit easier said than done.
Problems such as this that require a few body parts to be moving at the same time, require good coordination, can be quite tricky to figure out despite how easy they look. Tegan using strength and power to hold that top hold with 2 hands instead of just the one. Looks in a good position here to set up to go to the top here. Is she going to swing around under it like Alyssa did or jump? She jumps but not close enough. Having a little smile as she realized what she thought it might be might not be the way. Let's see if she can figure out that same beta that Alyssa used. Beta, of course, being the word climb is used to describe the pattern of movement we do with our bodies. Some beta on this problem would definitely make it easier for Tegan. It would detract from the fairness of the boulders. Each climber, of course, climbing the boulder by themselves, not being able to watch anyone else do it, makes it fairer but a little more tricky. Tegan just not quite sticking the start there. If she gets her left foot on that lower hold, it'll make her swing a little less violent, easier to control. You can see that foothold nice and big, but a bit harder to get to when your body's swinging around on the wall. Tegan just giving quite a few attempts here in an effort to stick the start. Might be worthwhile having a moment, catching her breath. And she gets the feet much better on that attempt. Tegan just crimping some of those features on that left hand big sloper. Out of Tegan with 1 minute left. Tegan having a seat on the mat, working through the problem in her mind. "40 seconds left. Does she have enough time and power to make it to the top of this boulder?" Tegan running back to the start in an effort to get there in time, but I think the clock will say that she is out of time. Danielle Visser, strong performance on boulder 2. Let's see if this boulder suits her style. James Barnes, one of her coaches, spent some time training for this competition himself. He's very familiar with competition style bouldering, and I'm sure he will have helped these girls with their coordination. Danielle almost getting her foot on that first green hold. Just getting called off there for not starting correctly. And of course, that'll count as an attempt.
Yeah, Danielle just struggling with this first move, trying to unlock the correct body position. Sometimes with these coordinations, all you have to do is try them to work it out eventually.
The goal of bouldering being to get to the top in the fewest attempts possible, but getting to the top, the most important thing, and using those attempts to figure out the sequence. It's not the end of the world if you get to the top. Much better movement there from Danielle, bringing her body in over her feet in an attempt to generate just enough momentum to get to the hold, but not too much that it pulls her off afterwards. Good bit of determination there from Danielle, but not enough to hold on to that hold. So close. Similar beta there to Tegan Oates. And if she can get a good right hand on that volume, I think on that hold, I think she'll stick it. Almost, you can see her right hand coming around in the thumb down position. Wrapping the top of that hold might be more effective. Danielle just not getting her feet up and left onto that big green hold. That's all she needs to control that momentum that keeps pulling her off the wall. Danielle is from KwaZulu-Natal, trains at Southern Rock Climbing Gym in Durban. Danielle has competed at the Youth World Cup and Youth World Championships in Russia. And unfortunately, she's out of time on this problem. She'll be glad that she's done with the bouldering. All that's left for her is a little bit of lead later on today. Caitlin Burwood up for the ladies. Also from KZN. Also a Southern Rock trainee. Good first attempt. Managing to reach the hold. Just not able to hold on. Just getting told that her start didn't count there. Much better movement there from Caitlin. She just needs to move her feet a little quicker on the left hand side and she'll be able to hold that hold.
Yeah, on her previous attempt it almost looked like she's able to do the first move statically. Maybe just not enough reach. Oh, much better. Looking really good now. Let's see how she tries to work out this top sequence. Gets the foot match, brings the hand down, looking in a very powerful position now. Let's see how she susses this last move. Oh, Heartbreak Hotel, unfortunately.
Slightly different beta than we've seen from other competitors who got into that hold. Caitlin deciding to undercling wrap it and go in with the right hand instead of the left. Of course, if she hits that hold with the right hand and manages to hold on for a second or two, that'll give her enough time to bring her left hand up and get awarded the top by the judges. So you saw Caitlin touching the top there, but that's not enough. Athletes need to be in control of the top. Often they will hang on and confirm with the judges that they've been given the top before they drop down. Caitlin doing the first move quite easily there. Often the muscle memory of having done it once is enough for athletes to be able to do it again and again and again. Let's see if she goes left hand up on this attempt. Goes with the right hand and almost manages to hold it.
Oh, Caitlin just taking a quick breather on the mat, trying to calm the mind, feel refreshed for the next few attempts.
Can see a slightly different scene in the background compared to a normal competition. Not many people in the venue today. 1 minute left for Caitlin. That 1 minute buzzer often being a good marker for athletes to know they have just enough time for 1 or 2 good attempts. Caitlin wrapping that right hand hold with her thumb there in an effort to increase how easy it is for her to hold, and Caitlin managing to stick the top, the first top we've seen on this problem. She'll be super excited with that performance on women's Boulder number 3 here at IFSC African Championships. Georgie, eye on the clock. Georgie sticking the start on her first attempt. If things go according to plan for her, she'll flash this boulder. Moving really well. Can see her finger strength there, really just helping her, and she flashes this one with style and ease. A little bit of a smile to herself.
Oh, Georgie really making this boulder look super casual. Maybe all the climbing in Joe's Valley's paid off.
Erin out on the mat sooner than she thought. She knows this boulder is flashable. She heard the limited crowd. She knows what's possible. Let's see if she can do it. Comfortable on the first move, not even grabbing on with the second hand. Using her shoulders to pull her body into the wall a bit there. Crimping on the features of this big slopey hold. Comfortably into the top. And a flash for Erin Sturkenberg from KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Oh, so that looks like a wrap for our female boulder finals. Now onto the lead wall starting in a little bit.
Thanks for your assistance in the commentary booth today, Chris. Good luck for tomorrow. And to everyone at home, we'll be back in a short while with the lead.